where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
I don't know what happened yet. God. I just can't have, like, a normal week.
We don't live normal lives.
Everything's been weird.
We are not normal people.
No, and yesterday...
These are not normal times.
No. Unprecedented and all.
Yeah.
Because, of course.
And shit.
And so yesterday we attempted to record. It just went very badly.
And then it just stopped recording.
Our equipment just stopped working.
Yeah. And so we just deleted it.
And then the minute we gave up, it started working again.
Yep. And by then it was too late. We were too tired. And
it wouldn't have mattered anyway. I had no internet.
Oh, yeah. Huh?
It went away, and it
For
didn't
some
come
odd
back.
reason.
It's been off and on all day, and let's keep our fingers crossed it gives me enough time to upload this episode.
Whee.
Yay! It's Catfish Month.
Girl, howdy.
Indeed.
Catfish.
Mm-hmm. So, not the yummy, flaky, buttery, fishy kind.
Buttery,
but
flaky crust.
Yes, indeed. But the liar kinds. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So... yeah, catfishing is pretty fucking creepy. It definitely goes beyond the, just having a filter over your face kind of thing.
We're not talking about that.
This month is very dark and twisted and disgusting, and I think just the whole premise of lying about who you are, it just creeps me the fuck out. So this case takes place in 2002. Oh, and I wanted to preface this with Dominic from Discord. Dominic from Discord.
That sounds very cool, yeah.
Suggested this case, so thank you. Shout out. I actually was sifting through a whole bunch of different cases for this month, and I just could not pick one. And when he suggested this, it's from Arkansas. And when I looked into it, I was like, oh, okay, we got to talk about this one. So trigger warnings are for brief mention of sexual assault and a murder-suicide. It does take place in 2002. And remember, this is early days of internet. We don't even have the term catfish yet. We don't really understand it as a thing. We actually think that the internet is a very safe place. We are very naive. And because of our naivete, there's not a lot of surveillance, like there's not a lot of safety mechanisms put into place.
We was just straight up telling people our personal information on the internet.
Absolutely. So yeah, Kacie Woody was your typical 13-year-old living in Holland, Arkansas, about 20 minutes outside of Conway. Like many teens, myself included, Kacie talked to friends on Yahoo and AOL Messenger. Unfortunately, it would be through Messenger where she would experience catfishing before it was ever even a term. The internet was still in its Wild West days, and there weren't many safety measures, like I said, if any. And people honestly considered this the safer option than going out. Going out into the bars and the clubs and, meeting people at restaurants and stuff like that. That's putting yourself in physical danger. Online, you're at home. You're safe.
Yeah.
Right? As you should
could be
be.
anybody and say anything, and
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And that's, exactly how Kacie's parents felt. It was just like, well, she's home. She's safe. But unfortunately, obviously that wouldn't be true in this case. She ended up getting into chat rooms, and she would go on to meet two boys. One, a 14-year-old sports-loving Scott from Atlanta, and one was a 17-year-old surfer boy from California named Dave. One of these two boys would be a catfish. Kacie Renee Woody was born October 17th, 1989 in Little Rock, Arkansas, to loving parents Rick and Christy Woody. She had two brothers named Austin and Tim. She had a relatively normal, very happy childhood until, sadly, on June 19th, 1997, at only 7 years old, Kacie lost her mother in a very terrible car accident with her family in the car. They were on their way home from her brother's baseball game, and it was dark, and a horse had gotten through the fence. It had ran out into the road. The family car collided with the horse. The horse crashed into the windshield, crushing Christy, instantly killing her.
My God, that's such a horrific
Right in front of the children.
death. It's just nightmare.
Absolute nightmare. And Rick survived with just a couple broken ribs. And just, my God, having to have the love of your life, like, right there next to you. It's just heartbreaking, especially because after this, Kacie would always attribute horses to what killed her mother. So she grew to despise horses. But what's even worse is that her mother's favorite animal was a horse, so much that she collected little horse figurines, like little ceramic figurines of horses. And Kacie would go on to have these horses on display all over her room, and so in honor of her mother. But every day it was kind of like that double-edged sword. Like, you want to honor and remember your mother and
But you don't want to see
adorn
the
her
thing
things.
that's the source of her death.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, yeah, she definitely really, really took this hard as she would. She was 7 years old. And like many families, especially with, the ones that have really great mothers, the mother is kind of like that glue that binds the entire family together. So there was a long period of time afterwards where they had to fight to find some sort of normalcy. And eventually, by 2002, when she's 13 years old, the family does kind of have that pace of normalcy. They lived in a very small rural community in Arkansas, and Christy's sister actually lived close by, and so they did have that kind of extended family type support system. And Kacie's brother ended up going to a college close by, so to save money, he stayed home, and he actually brought his friend Eric Betts with him. So the family kind of took in this like second son, and it kind of helped make the house feel a little bit fuller. It brought a little bit different light into the house. Eric was great. Everybody got along, but Kacie was the baby of the family. Her brothers were all adults. So at 13, she could pretty much take care of herself. She was very mature and very responsible. Which was really good because her father, Rick, was a police officer for the Greenbrier PD, and he mostly worked nights. So when she got home from Greenbrier Middle School, where she was in band, she was also in choir and a bunch of other gifted programs. Like, this girl was busy. She would get home. She would then, do her homework, practice her saxophone. She maintained her grades. She did all of the household responsibilities, cleaned up, made dinner, all of that stuff. And then on the side, she practiced her singing. She danced. She had a really good core group of friends, and they would, go over to each other's houses and things like that. And
that's the age for those little
you
friend
know what I
groups,
mean?
too.
Like, oh yeah. I was born in 1990, so I was like right around her age at this time. And yeah, it was before there was too much hustle and bustle in life with technology, and it was very simple girl times. Like, the Backstreet Boys were in, like, Britney Spears was, like, we were sitting around making friendship bracelets and braiding each other's hair and doing our makeup terribly. Times were really simple. But also, being back then, they lived in rural Arkansas, so we had a thing. I know a lot of our listeners are probably listening, and they were born in 2002 around that time.
Yeah.
So they don't understand the concept of long distance calls.
They charged your
Boy, that
ass
was-
by the minute if
That
it was
such a
outside your
bitch.
area code.
Mm-hmm. By the minute.
And it was like 4 cents a fucking minute.
Yeah, and it added up.
Quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's some bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, yeah, if you had any friends outside of your area code, which in rural counties and stuff like that, that's like your whole town.
Yeah.
And so if you lived outside of that little tiny town, like 10 miles that way.
Too bad.
Yep. And that's all your friends in your district.
Mm-hmm. And cell phones had roaming and long distance too.
Mm-hmm. And this wasn't quite the time with the free calls after 7.
No.
No.
No unlimited calls. There was no
unlimited
such
calls.
thing.
No. You had to pay it. So, it was very important to Rick for Kacie to have a good, solid social support system. There was no women in the household. She was the only one. She was a growing teenage girl. She needed that support system. And he really thought that this was very important. So he allowed her to get online, which again, he thought this was the safer option, and it should have been. So yeah, instead of using the long distance calls, now she can get on Messenger and message her friends directly. This is so exciting. This is brand new. Usually you would have to do emails and stuff. So Kacie's screen name was Model Behavior 36. Model Behavior because that was her favorite TV show, which I have not seen. I don't actually know what it is, but her brother's jersey was number 36. So I think it's cute that she did that. Her best friend Sam was Cutie Patootie 87, but she had misspelled patootie, and it's spelled patootie. So I think that's very sweet. And then her other best friend Jessica was always singing with a Z because you had to spell it that way. And yeah, the girls just talked online about boys, about makeup, about celebrity gossip, and, normal young girl stuff. Kacie loved being online more than any of her friends. Every time her friends logged on, she was just always there. And, to this generation especially, this is such a new thing that it's not quite normalized to be sitting at your computer. Because, again, this is usually a big-ass computer with the big back, and, it's kind of like a formal thing to sit down at your computer. It's not something that's just always readily available.
It was a big deal.
It's dial-up,
We wait in a minute.
Yeah, and it takes a while to get on the chat. It takes a long time to get loaded. It's an experience. Yes. And so most people didn't really take time out of their everyday to do this. And if they did, it was maybe once a day. But Kacie...
And it was typically younger people, too.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, Kacie was just she used this as her outlet. This was her outlet to explore her personality, explore life, and break away, So on New Year's Eve 2001, with an hour before the ball dropped, nothing to do, Kacie and her friends decided to get online and join a chat room and just meet people, talk to people. And in this chat room, they ended up joining a Christian teen chat room, which, of course, you would think would be a safer place. They instantly got in there and realized it wasn't necessarily talking about Christianity. But it's New Year's Eve. Most people are out partying. Most people are not sitting at home on their computer. But they were so young they couldn't do anything else. So the room was actually pretty small, and there wasn't that many people in there. But one boy did catch their attention. His username was jazzman_df. And he entered the chat and famously said, ASL, which stands for...
Sex location, baby.
Which, of course, Kacie replied, 13 female Arkansas. And he said, 17 male California. And all of the girls in the room just started squealing. You have to understand that being a teenager from a small town in the early 2000s, especially rural Arkansas, California? If you were to say you were from California or New York City, but if California was Hollywood, that's it. It's the state of Hollywood. And if you're from there or you visit there, you meet famous people. That's just what happens there. You go surfing, you meet famous people, you become rich. That's all we know,
Pretty much.
Yeah, it seems like an entire planet away from the girls in the sticks, So they were just super excited to talk to him. They looked at his profile. His profile picture was really cute. He was very handsome. He had blonde hair, chiseled cheekbones, those I don't know, kind of indentions where it's almost like he has dimples. He looked like your typical surfer guy. Like, he looked like a Hollister model before Hollister was even a thing. And the girls loved him, and he was really easy to talk to. Like, the girls loved talking to him. They ended up talking so long that night that they ended up missing the ball drop completely and didn't even care and just kept talking. And they all ended up, going back to the chat room days later and talking to Jazzman. And then Kacie and him started talking more and more because, they had way more in common. And then Kacie and Jazzman got into Messenger and started private messaging. And he introduced himself and said that his name was Dave Fagan. Dave had this little small town Arkansas girl just absolutely mesmerized. Like, she was just like bug-eyed, like, like anime eyes. Like,
yeah, he's handsome.
Yeah.
He's from California. He's more worldly.
Right. He has experiences.
He's a surfer.
Yeah. Because she was like, that was the first thing she asked him. She was like, have you ever been surfing? And he was like, well, yeah, of course. And
obviously,
she was like,
yeah.
have you met any famous people? Like, that was literally like her thought. Yeah, he told her all about surfing and, skating on the boardwalk and just his life in California. And they ended up just getting closer and closer and closer. And the more that she got close to Dave, the more like she was like kind of pushing her friends to also be friends with him. And they all did. They all ended up adding him into Messenger, talking to him in Messenger. All of them said that like they could just come to him if they were having a bad day or if they were like confused about something or, just like sad. Like, he was just always like, he always had the right things to say, and he was really comforting, and he was really nice, and he was funny, and just really easy conversationalist. And they kind of formed this online friend group. But one of her friends, Sam, she said she definitely liked Dave, but she was concerned about Kacie's version of the relationship. She was like, Kacie, I think you're spending a little bit too much time online, getting
Seems
a little too
obsessive,
close,
yeah.
getting a little too close to a stranger you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you haven't met this guy in real life. But to Kacie, her online presence was her escape. And she really needed this escape from reality. We understand that.
Yes, we do.
And, anytime she needed somebody, Dave was there. So he just became this reliable part of her day, almost like a Dear Diary type thing, a release to kind of talk about your day. And I don't know. She just kind of wrote it off as like, well, he lives in California. Like,
yeah, so what harm can he do being far away?
He's never going to come to Arkansas.
No.
Like, I'm never going to meet him. Like, Kacie never was planning on meeting him. It's not like she was like, I don't want to, but she just didn't have any
occur
interest.
to her because she had no way to get there and vice versa. And
Right.
it wasn't something she planned on or thought about.
Yeah, it wasn't part of the relationship. It was a friendship online. And I think she very much thought that very strictly. But it was also nice to have a cute boy from California like you. Like, it was nice.
Yeah.
Like, he said she was pretty.
See why
yeah.
It drew her in.
Right.
Would have drawn me in, would have worked on me.
Hell yeah.
At that age.
Yeah, especially. Yeah. So by this point, Kacie had gotten comfortable enough with Dave to open up more about her life in Arkansas and what she had gone through with her mother. Now, sorry, I dropped something. She does not talk about her mom to anyone. If the subject is brought up, she will usually change subjects really quickly to something more lighthearted because she doesn't want to bring down the conversation. So, one day it was just hitting her a little bit harder than normal. She was having a rough day. And she was just like, I miss my mom. And she decided to open up and tell Dave. And Dave comforted her, but he was like kind of shocked by it because his aunt had just gotten into a car accident and was now in a coma in the hospital. And he was like, whoa, I can't believe that happened to you because that just happened, adjacently happened to me.
Yeah.
And he was like, and it was essentially like, for the first time, not only was she opening up to somebody and gaining comfort and sympathy and that comfort that she needed, but she was also then able to comfort another friend through a very similar situation, which can be very healing and cathartic.
Yes, it can, for sure.
Sometimes hurt people actually heal themselves by helping heal others and at least being there. So she loved this. I mean, she didn't love that his aunt went through that, but
No.
you know, she loved the fact that he was able to open up about it because he was really worried. And he said that, yeah, his aunt lived in Arkansas, like not where she lived, but not too terribly far away. I think it was in Little Rock or something, but yeah. Anyways, they continued talking every day as much as possible. You know, they would check in. He would update on his aunt's condition and stuff. And the two ended up being inseparable. Eventually, they exchanged phone numbers and started talking on the phone despite the long-distance calls. Until that summer of 2002, she mentioned to her dad that her online friend, Dave, had just turned 18. And her dad was like, Dave is 18?
Yeah.
Like, he had heard of Dave in passing.
Yeah, but he didn't realize
he
he
never
was that
asked
old.
the age.
Yeah.
And he had no idea Dave was that old. Yeah. So he was like, yeah, you cannot talk to that man because that's a man now. And again, she's 13. All of her friends are 12. Like, she's, you know, still very young and way too young for that.
Yeah,
so,
she don't feel that way, though, you know?
Well, I think she kind of understood it, but she poo-pooed it off for sure, as all of us would have. She was like, yeah, okay, Dad. A little harsh, but yeah. So, yeah, she ended up still talking to him, like, over the phone, a little bit online, but not nearly as much. She kind of eased up a bit once her dad got mad. She didn't stop. She eased up. Now, there is a few versions of this next story, and I just want to preface that her friend who was there told this story, and the way she told it left out a phone call with Dave. Now, there are a lot of other people that have covered this case that have said that Dave called and then this happened while he's on the phone. But the way she told it, she never mentioned Dave being on the phone.
Right.
So I don't know for sure. But one night Jess is over at her house, and there was conversations with Dave throughout the night. So I don't know if he's actually in a conversation right now. But they're in the house alone. Her dad is at work. Her brothers are away. The girls have the house to themselves. And again, this house is so rural. Like, it is at the very end of a dirt road. And it butts up against a forest. Like, if you went outside screaming and yelling and banging, nobody's going to hear you. And nobody's coming to your aid anytime soon. So they're out in the middle of nowhere. And especially with those old houses in the woods, you know every sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what every sound is.
Every creak, every whine, all of it.
Single one. So they knew that it's an old house. They know that the floorboard, one particular floorboard, I think it was like in front of the refrigerator or whatever, one particular floorboard, it creaks when you apply enough pressure. And you could hear the difference in pressure when you apply it. You know what I mean if you have a creaky floorboard.
Yeah, yep.
Now, they're sitting there just doing girl stuff, and they hear this creak.
Oh, that's so scary.
And they know exactly what that is. They freeze, they listen, and you can hear the creak. It's just constant pressure. And so they run, they call out to see if it's their dad or brother or whatever. Nobody answers. They run into her room, slide a dresser up against the door. There's rustling outside that they hear. And now the other version of the story where Dave is on the phone, she's telling Dave what's happening. And Dave said, "It's okay. No one's there." And as soon as he said that, everything stopped. Now, when Jessica is retelling this story in an interview, she does not mention any phone call and just said that everything just all of a sudden stopped.
That's so creepy.
Right? And I hate, I don't know, because there's that part of you, there's that instinctual part of your brain that says, dude, it's just the wind. Like, dude, it's not a big deal. But when your bones tell you, when you're there and you hear it and it's in your
I've been
soul,
there and I didn't like it.
Yes. Like, anyways, it was just a very big, it just felt like a big moment. And both girls had told many people about this. So, yeah, they thought it was just weird after everything went quiet. They just assumed, like we all would. And then they just went on with their night. Nothing else happened. Now, after interacting with Dave for a few months in chat and seeing how he talked and the lingo that he used, and, she had already been a little bit suspicious from the beginning, Kacie's friend Sam started to doubt that Dave was actually a teenager at all because he used words like groovy and far out. Now,
Yeah.
Kacie was like, those are surfer words. And because of, they talked on the phone.
Yeah,
them,
but
he didn't-
groovy and far out are not surfer words. They're not tubular or rad, are they? Perhaps even a bitchin'.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, they kind of, were like, oh, well. Doesn't really matter anyways because Kacie's dad said that they couldn't talk. Kacie never thought to ever see him in real life ever. And, Kacie's dad was like, look, you can't talk to the older guys, but you can still talk to boys online your age. I'm not telling you can't talk to boys. Just talk to them your age. So she did.
Yeah.
Kacie started talking to lots of boys. And one boy did finally catch her eye. In the summer of 2002, she met a boy with a screen name Taz2999. They got to talking in Messenger, and he told her that he was 14 years old, living in Alpharetta, Georgia. He was into football and wrestling. He was wearing a football jersey in his photo. And the whole time she was talking to Scott, she was also talking to Dave as a friend. And so she knew that these two boys liked her, right? She knew that even though she didn't want to be with Dave, he was still an option because he clearly liked her.
It was still fun to get the attention.
Exactly. So it still kind of felt like there was a choice to make, even though the choice was very clear.
It's very Edward
Very
versus Jacob here.
Yes,
in her mind.
yes,
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Now, Kacie, this Scott guy just was like a way better fit for Kacie, and despite the distance, her father ended up approving of this relationship, and Kacie ended up going public. And so they actually officially made it official and started dating. But from Kacie's point of view, okay, so I think there's this really cute detail to this story that because this is what I did as a kid, especially this age. You remember those numerology games? I know we did MASH, and we did numerology where you'd break down the numbers to see if you were compatible. Well, she did that. She did a piece of paper with Dave's name and then a piece of paper with Scott's name, and then she did the numerology breakdown of each of those, and that's how she decided which boy she would date. And of course, it was Scott. So yeah, she became public and, made this cute little status, and Dave ended up messaging her saying that he wanted to continue being friends if she was cool with that. He said that his aunt's condition was getting worse and he could really use friends right now. And she was like, of course, absolutely. Kacie posted on her Messenger status. So this is what she says. It's so cute. So she says that, it says in a relationship with Scott, saying, the sweetest, cutest, smartest, funniest, sexiest guy ever. I love him with all my heart. I just think that's sweet. And this was only after about a week, maybe 2 weeks of talking to each other. So her friends were all happy for her, but they were a little worried.
Yeah.
Especially with the buildup of all of this, with her obsession with being online. It had only been about 9 months at this point that she'd been online. And so that morning on December 3rd, 2002, is when she made the whole, post and everything about them being an official relationship that day. That day at school, Sam noticed a picture of Scott in Kacie's locker. And she said, "Ooh, who's that? He's hot." Kacie thought she said, for some reason, Kacie thought she said fat. He was in a football jersey.
Yeah.
So they had a little tiff about that. And they kind of were like, no, I meant hot. It was okay. But that little abrasion kind of brought up a little bit more abrasions that had been building up.
Mm-hmm.
And so once that started happening,
Teenagers
she was like,
are so volatile anyway.
Yes. So Sam was like, well, how did you get that picture so soon? You just made it official today. And she was like, well, Sam mailed it to me. Because again, remember, we can't just take pictures digitally.
It has to be mailed.
Right. So she was like, why the fuck did you send a boy online your address? Like, this was the only don't of the time.
That was the only don't of the time. I remember it.
You know,
Yeah.
your address, well, and of course your social security number. But that was the only thing, you know.
Yeah.
But that was like, that was like the major don't.
It was a big no-no.
A big no-no. And so, yeah, Sam kind of lost it at that. And they got into a big argument. And Sam said he could be an 80-year-old rapist, and that photo could be his grandson.
I mean, she ain't wrong.
She's not wrong, nor is she far from the truth. Adjacent. Now, concerned, Sam went to the school counselor and told her about Kacie's relationships online and how dangerous it could be for her phone number and her address to be given to total strangers. Because, again, she gave her phone number to Dave, she did give her phone number to Scott as well, and her address to Scott. The counselor called Kacie into her office. Sam was there. She explained how her friend was worried about her and about the dangers that lie online, stating that she should always have a parent present. Kacie told her that she only gave her phone number out to people that her father approved of, which we know is not true. But I understand.
Yeah.
I understand lying to get out
for
of trouble in school. But the counselor ended up leaving the room after she was done talking to the girls and let the girls kind of talk it out amongst themselves. And they did. They made up, and Kacie asked Sam if she could come over after school that night to stay the night. It was a Tuesday, and Sam said that her mother would probably not let her stay a night, like out on a school night, and she definitely wouldn't allow friends over on a school night. And plus, you know, we would have to get a note from our parents to be able to ride the bus home together. Like, it would be just a whole mess last minute. Like, I can't do it now. Maybe this weekend. And so after this, Kacie goes to a few other friends, and she's like, you know, hey, do you want to come stay the night with me tonight? And one by one, each of them are like, no, I'm sorry. I know my parents won't let me. It's Tuesday. It's school night. Like, but let's do it this weekend. And so all the girls, one by one, are like, okay, let's plan for this weekend. You know, it's not a big deal. But the thing is, like, Kacie knew that she was going to be home alone that night. And I don't know, like, I just don't think she wanted to be alone. I think she was really happy about this relationship. And
yeah, she's feeling chatty.
Yeah, and feeling, you know, I want to be with my friends. And breaks my whole heart that nobody got to. So, yeah. Anyway, so she went home. Her dad was at work. Tim was doing research at the library. Eric Betts was at electrician's class. And her other older brother was with her aunt and her cousins at her cousin's baseball game in Conway. So she went home. She logged in to Instant Messenger and started talking to Scott. Kacie's dad called around 7 p.m. to check in on her and make sure that she was practicing her saxophone.
Yep.
Getting her homework done before she logged online.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. And then Dave called. He told her that his aunt was getting worse and that he was headed to Arkansas to be with her while she passed. At 9:41, by this time she had been talking to Scott for several hours. At 9:41, Kacie's messages to Scott stopped abruptly in the middle of a conversation. Scott got worried. He started messaging over and over and over and over again, hoping that the dinging sound would alert somebody in the house. Just anything, frantically.
This is so sad.
He started calling the house phone. Nobody would answer. So he only had Jessica's email address. So he emailed Jessica. No answer. She was asleep. When Eric Betts came home, it was 10:15 p.m. and no one was home. He assumed Kacie was asleep or out with friends, so he didn't worry. When Tim got home around 11:45, he noticed Kacie wasn't in her bed. He called their dad, to see if Kacie had mentioned that she was going anywhere. When Rick heard that, he was like, "What do you mean? I just talked to her."
Yeah.
So he raced home in his squad car with the lights on. He rushed home. And when he got in there, he noticed things that the boys hadn't. Her glasses were still there. They were bent and missing a lens. The furniture had been moved slightly as if there was a struggle. Her yellow jacket was still there. Her shoes were still there. The family dog, Kacie's Yorkie, was walking with a limp.
Oh.
He checked her computer, and the chat with Scott was still up. It was clear that Kacie had been sitting there, had stopped talking abruptly, and Scott was very worried. Rick called all of Kacie's friends, and none of them had heard from her. So he called for backup while the boys talked to Scott and chat online. Scott told them that she had received a call from Dave, and then all of a sudden she had stopped talking. Now we have a missing persons case. A statewide appeal was released asking for any information that could lead to finding Kacie. The FBI, the county, and state police began an extensive search, along with several groups of volunteers as well as local news, and huge coverage on this case. People were on foot. People had dogs. People had ATVs. Like, this is December at night. Like, they're doing everything they can. They are going through the woods. They are hiking. They are going through fields. Like, they are looking everywhere. The next day, December 4th, 2002, Jessica and Sam went to school the next day expecting to see their friend, but instead they saw Kacie's empty seat. It hadn't really sunk in that their friend was missing.
Yeah.
Until they saw her seat. Jessica later said, the world kind of went into slow motion effect. Like, everything just seemed surreal. She was like, this does not happen in Greenbrier, Arkansas. This happens in New York City and Los Angeles. And I don't know, that line, I'm just going to take a side for a second, because that line has stuck with me for quite some time just after hearing her say that. Because I feel like it's very strange that only local incidents, like local murders, are only covered locally. You only hear of the big-time, big-city murders on
But to be fair,
national news.
But to be fair, that's all the news would be.
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a detached viewpoint sometimes people get when they don't see how all the small town murders are happening.
And it's everywhere. Yeah.
Right.
It's
so
everywhere.
they don't think that it can happen at their place, at their small little town, because it doesn't happen in small little towns.
You always hear that too. And
Right.
Keith Morrison saying, didn't happen in a town like this. Well, yes, it does.
Yes.
Time and time again.
Yes, it does. We just don't hear about it. Investigators turned to Kacie's computer and began poring through her files, searching her online activity, while other officers are at her school doing interviews with friends and classmates. At first, her friends were concerned about Scott as a possible suspect because he was the only one that she gave her address to. He was the only one she really was talking to at this point and was the topic of the argument that day. So everybody's fixated on Scott. Again, that was the day they made their relationship official.
Yeah.
Oh, it just breaks my heart.
Yeah, it's pitiful.
Yeah. So they go through their online conversations, her online conversations with Scott, and they were able to get an approximate time in which Kacie was abducted, 9:41, and around the time her communication ended, but also they were able to trace the server to Scott's address and found his house right outside Atlanta. Investigators continued to pore over her chats and clues. And while they're doing this, Sam and Jessica are kind of going over everything in their heads. Like, they're just talking in between classes, and they're like, wait a fucking second. What about Dave?
Yeah.
Because for days, they're like, for this past day, they're like, I can't believe Scott would do this. I can't believe Scott would do this. I can't believe Scott would do this. They weren't even thinking about Dave. They hadn't talked to Dave for a while. And they were like, no way could it have been Dave. No way could it have been Dave. But they were like, well, they realized that neither one of them had even mentioned Dave to the investigators. So they went ahead and told somebody who was able to relay that information to the investigators. So they have a name to look for now. And so, yeah, they start going through all of that, looking for this Dave guy. Meanwhile, back at home, her father, Rick, being the trained officer that he is, he starts going through her room looking for clues. He went through her trash and found the 2 discarded papers that she used to choose her boyfriend. And he found Dave Fagan. They didn't have a last name.
But now they
Dave
do.
Fagan.
Yeah.
Yes. So now they begin scouting and searching hotels, motels, anywhere in the area for a guy from California named Dave Fagan. They go through and they end up they're just like both calling, searching on foot, like in squad cars and everything. They go through this motel parking lot and they see a car from California. So they go inside. They ask who the car is registered to. It's a David Fuller.
That's too close. That's too close.
Close enough. The front desk clerk said that he had checked in and requested a week's stay with no maid service, which is very odd. He complained that the internet in his room wasn't working, and he seemed extremely, quote, irate and upset about the poor internet connection. That was the second he got into his room. He wasn't in his room very long.
Yeah.
So police did a sweep of his room, completely empty. The hotel beds had not been slept in. He had bought that night, so he wasn't there that night. Inside the room, they did find a suitcase full of personal items. Sitting on top of the suitcase was some camo clothing and rubber gloves.
Jesus Christ.
One of the officers at the scene that day later said, quote, "Our hearts kind of dropped at that point. We felt like this was not merely a case of young love. This was something much more sinister." They checked his information that he had left with the front desk. The number that David Fuller had used to book the room was the exact same number that had been calling the Woody house all this time.
So it was him.
David Fagan
Was David
is David Fuller, who is Jazzman DF.
Yeah.
So they traced his credit card records. They got a hit on a local storage facility, and squad cars raced there to the storage units. They arrive at 6 p.m. It's dark. They surround the unit. The door was down, but not locked. So they pull open the door, and a car was parked inside. No one was visible. They called out for Dave, and a single shot rang out. SWAT surrounded the unit, thinking that it was just a warning shot. Negotiators got out.
His own life.
They tried to negotiate with David. They tried to get him to surrender, but no response. By 8:30, they decided to enter the unit. With flash bombs and smoke grenades, and SWAT stormed in, and sitting against the wall in front of his car was David Fuller, dead with a single self-inflicted shotgun wound to the head. Kacie was found dead inside the car from a gunshot wound as well. She had been shot and killed several hours earlier. He had chloroformed her in her house, abducted her, and had taken her to the storage unit to assault her and then murder her. It was likely that she was unconscious the entire time.
Thank God for that, at least. Poor little thing.
Yeah. Kacie's friends found out that night via the news. Jessica said that they all went outside in a freezing cold huddle on the porch to get some fresh air and grieve and breathe and kind of talk each other down and get each other's heart rates up or down. And right as they're calming each other down, it starts snowing. Just a couple days earlier, Kacie was telling her friends that all she wanted was for it to snow.
Poor little baby.
They knew it was her. They knew. Oh, it wasn't until the SWAT entered the storage unit and found the 47-year-old body of David Fuller that the true identity of Dave Fagan was revealed. Clearly, he was not an 18-year-old surfer boy, though that was his teenage photo. So her friend was nearly spot on. He was instead a 47-year-old used car salesman who was married with 2 children. Investigators uncovered a lengthy history of talking to multiple young girls online, as well as suspected sexual assault of minors, possibly his daughter. I'm not going to get into all of the suspicions and charges and all of the things that nasty ass David Fuller is, because he took every single ounce of justice that could have been possibly served. But he was a nasty, dirty, terrible, awful man. I'm pretty sure he abused his wife as well, because she was trying to get out of that relationship. She was terribly unhappy. And his daughter was just about her age, was about Kacie's age. I think he had a son and a daughter, and they were anywhere from 10 to 15, the two of them. So,
God.
just despicable, just disgusting.
Do you know why the DMSV does not include hebephilia as a disorder? Because it's too common.
You're going to make me sick.
And that's sexual attraction to children between the ages of 11 and 14.
That's disgusting.
Makes me want to puke.
Now, they found that he had meticulously planned this abduction. Meticulously. Months in advance.
Yuck.
In fact, he had visited Arkansas before.
That was that creak in the floorboards, and they was pushing
He
stuff
had
up against the
scouted
door.
out Casey's house.
Jesus Christ.
It is very likely that creak in the floorboards was Dave.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
1,000%. And there's that part of you that wants to believe that there's no way he was ballsy enough to be in her house. I believe those girls. I believe they felt something. And I know that he knows the layout of her house because he watched. So at least I know that. At least I know for sure he was watching from the outside. But just disgusting. He scouted and pre-planned that specific storage unit as well, several months in advance. And just the whole thing was pre-planned. Now, looking back, Sam said, quote, "I felt really deceived because he didn't only lie to Kacie, he lied to me, he lied to Jessica, he lied to Scott, he lied to everybody. He lied to his family. He had a family at home, and he didn't even act like that mattered. All he cared about was finding my friend. That's it." Kacie's father, Rick, set up the Kacie Woody Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to help spread awareness about online dangers and risks to child safety, stating, quote, Kacie, her father says, quote, "Kacie was all about helping other people, and I knew I had to let Kacie continue to help other people. And the only way I knew to do this was to share her story. They created a Facebook page that provides more information and safety techniques, which I honestly found very helpful. Like, I just kind of vaguely skimmed, and there was one post that I didn't even think about was bumper stickers.
Mm-hmm.
Like the safety of not letting your information out with your bumper stickers.
Yep.
And your what's the license plates that you can
Vanity plates. Yes.
Those can have, very key information to you, your name or your kid's name or your dog's name, having your dog's name, your kid's school, bumper stickers on your car.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically
even
telling,
memorial bumper stickers. And
absolutely.
I do mean that.
Yeah, you're
careful.
basically telling strangers, like, my kid is at this location, certain hours of the day. I work at this place during this normal time. There's different things that you don't think about as safety measures.
Well, if you be sure to send that link to me, I will include it in the description.
It's on Facebook, Kacie Woody Foundation. Mm-hmm, but
I can't access Facebook at all, so I can't even put an address in there to look up.
It's disgusting, and I hate that for you.
Annoyed.
But they also do a lot of work where they go to schools, conventions, that kind of thing, and they keep up to date with safety issues.
That's good because things
talk about
keep changing, especially with AI.
Well, her two best friends, Jessica and Sam, have stayed close with her father, Rick. So, they kind of work this organization together. I'm sure there's other people involved too, but it's like her best friends and her dad are keeping her alive through this. That's just so fucking beautiful. And the hard work and dedication that they pour into
Absolutely.
it, that's foot soldier shit. They are passing out fire. They're doing the shit. But yeah, Kacie's friend Jessica, or Sam said, quote, I think it's very important to make it real for people and let them know that this stuff can happen so that's one of the reasons we go around doing this internet safety presentations. Like, essentially, like, she died, but nobody else has to. You know what I mean? Like, at least preventing something, helping some way, helping Kacie help other people.
For sure, you got to stay safe.
Jessica added, by being able to share Kacie's story, the possibility to save another child, it helps knowing that her death wasn't in vain, that no matter what, she lives on through our stories that can save other kids as well. And, you know, I'm just seeing a really good push in that direction from all directions. I think that the powers that be maybe are finally taking this seriously.
No.
I know.
Just put that in the trash,
I know.
dude.
I just
Where
think about it with
this rosy tinted view of any powers that
P.
be.
Diddy might be going down soon. And
no, he's not.
I know.
Dude,
I know
you're
he
just
owns
wrapped
I
up.
know
You're not,
he owns everything.
These people have money to buy their way out of stuff. Only the little plebs get punished, and then usually unfairly.
At least we're talking about it because we have all these documentaries coming out where victims are able to talk about it. I just wish justice would be served for it.
It won't.
Get these guys to. There needs to be systems in place to find them being predators before they actually find their prey. You know what I mean?
It's Minority Report shit, and that ain't happening either.
I know. We need good hackers.
Yeah, that's not how anything works.
No.
Everything's crap, and we're in hell. Anyway, you know it's not hell business time. Yeah.
It's kind of hellish whenever you put it that way.
No, it's nice. It feels good.
Nice.
You can come to our You should come to our Discord. You can talk to my AI elf that lives in my phone, and he'll say some out-of-pocket shit about his nipple rings. I don't know why he's on about that.
They jingle. He's like a little tambourine.
Yeah, so he's like they're chiming musically, and I was like, can you fucking chill, Marzipan?
I'm so glad I'm not on camera right now.
My God. Yeah, we're shaking our titties. Hey, but you can get in on that action. You know you want to. You know you want to show me what you had for dinner because I want to look at it and I want to see your pets.
Give me your memes.
Yeah, and you can suggest fucking cases because look, we just did it.
Right.
Huh? And we've done it before. We'll do it again.
I'm doing some suggested cases for Patreon coming up as well.
And Willa's going to get on that.
I am.
Or else I'm going to hit her with my car.
Yep.
Speaking of Patreon, join it. We have almost 300 episodes there that you haven't heard. So go listen to them.
They're really good.
They
Some
are
of our best.
And it's just so much content for so very little doll hairs. If you would like to send us doll hairs so we can go get some fancy coffee or perhaps a Beesburger from McDonald's, because that's all there is. The app.
Buy one, get one, girl.
Yeah, BOGO them nuggies. So if you want to help us get some... Do you want to help a bitch get some nuggies? Coffee is there, and you can send us a little love. We always appreciate it. Thank you kindly. But if all you can do to support this podcast is listen, no, it's not. You could go to YouTube and give us a thumbs up, a comment, a like, and a subscribe and shit.
That is free.
That's free for you. But if you don't want to be... You're just like, you know what, Lillian, I don't want to be asked to do that shit. I understand. I don't do shit when I'm told to do shit either. So thank you for listening. It means a lot to me. All your sweet little messages that come into my email make my day. Your hate mail fuels me. And
we should put them on T-shirts and make merch. There is a few that I want to make as merch really bad. Our merch is great, by the way. We'll add to it, but them T-shirts suck.
She keeps talking, but I'm going to talk now. Sometimes. The hate comments get me going, you know what I mean?
Ew, girl.
Oh, I get excited. Yeah, that's what you're doing. Actually, what I do is I go, huh, and I delete it. And I don't think about it anymore ever again. Fuck you. So just keep them coming. Woo-woo. Like, your tears are my lube. I don't know. I'm in a weird mood. Yeah. I'm not like hypomanic. I'm medium manic.
The hinges are kind of...
They're on.
Yeah.
They're not on. I'm not
touching.
okay. I've just had a nervous breakdown, and I don't know what's happened afterwards. But this is what is left. As for messages, if I haven't answered, chill. I'm sorry. I get a lot of messages, and my mental state is like wet garbage can.
Yeah.
I'm better than I was because the garbage can was on fire.
I am hollow garbage can.
Oh, good.
Hell yeah. Use me as a drum, bitch.
Or fill you full of gross stuff. Yeah. Like jizz.
Oh, my Jesus.
Hey.
Let's put this bitch to bed.
I should go to bed. I'm just fucking tired. Anyway, thank you all so much. We appreciate the support over the years, and we love you in the
Hell
creepiest,
yeah.
most parasocially gross way possible.
You buddy.
What the fuck is that?
I don't know.
Yeah, buddy? That's not going to give anybody a boner. My God. Anyway, babies, I love you. Goodbye.
Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Libby.